I'd really like to thank the Ortegas for having me back. It's been a long time. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things, and that's gray banded kingsnakes and herping in West Texas. So that's what this talk is going to be. So the reptiles, amphibians, and a bunch of other things found in West Texas. So the things I'd like to cover. Use this other one. Some of the habitats found in West Texas, some of the reptiles, some of the invertebrates, some amphibians, some natural history on the gray banded kingsnake, and then also some tips for hunting the area, because it's changed quite a bit since the early days when we could just go out there and do whatever we want, basically. Nowadays, there's a whole bunch of litany of rules and regulations. So every year, when I was a teacher, like Mrs. Ortega, and every year I would tell my kids, well, I'm getting ready to go to Texas. And they would go, Texas? I mean, why go to Texas? It's so big and so far away. And most of it kind of looks flat like this. And I tell them, really, if you go to this side of Texas, right here, the west part of Texas, it's pretty mountainous. It's got lots of really cool mountains, up to over 8,000 feet, almost 9,000 feet tall, the Guadalupe Mountains of northern Texas. It's got all these really cool canyons that you can hike up in and explore and look for reptiles and amphibians. The top of the Davis Mountains, you can look down and get a good idea, looking down towards River Road. This is all areas that you're going to become intimately familiar with in the next hour or so. And of course, these nice craggy canyons that you can walk through, and limestone areas where you can find gray banded kingsnakes occasionally. And then the southern part, like towards Rio Grande, looks more like this: very arid, very dry, and quite deserty. And you're noticing, yeah, if you hit the lights, that'd be good. You notice it's pretty green. I'm doing most of the photographs of habitats in what we call Chamber of Commerce conditions, where it's had good rains and it looks really green. A lot of times it's really, really dry. And there's some photographs that are pretty dry that you'll see them later on, see what it looks like usually. So let's start with the turtles. A lot of interesting turtles in the area. Desert box turtles, the male, you can tell by the reddish color iris, and then also the reddish coloration on the forelimbs. Females have more of a brown eye, and they're not colored so nicely on the forelimb. Notice that both these last turtles, even though they're, for the most part, terrestrial turtles, anytime it rains, because it happens so infrequently, they're taking full advantage. They're taking this time to absorb this water, drink this water. They'll drink really a lot of water and then basically store it so that they can survive through the hard times. You go to any waterways, you're going to see a lot of these interesting river turtles. Now, California has basically, well, one native turtle and then a whole bunch of introduced turtles, but the Pacific pond turtle is the only native turtle. Texas has a whole bunch of aquatic turtles, like the Texas slider and the soft-shell turtles.
Oh, wow.
Let's talk a little bit about lizards. This is a Texas spiny lizard, found more in the eastern part of the gray banded kingsnake range. A big prey item for gray banded kingsnakes is this earless sand lizard. That's one thing that they are known to prey on. These things will grow under rocks, they'll grow in sand, and gray banded kingsnakes will take that opportunity at night to hunt for that in those conditions. Texas banded geckos, golden rabbits. We have banded gecko in California, so does Texas, its own different species. Then the rarish reticulated gecko, the big band gecko, or reticulated gecko, was discovered in 1950 something, and it's pretty rare, but under certain conditions, when it's had a lot of rain, you can see quite a few of these in the same time, and then they'll disappear, and then you'll see, the same ones again. And introduced to the Mediterranean gecko, a lot of people catch these and use them for feeder animals for their baby snakes. They're introduced, so not that big of a deal. Different horned lizard species, like the round-tailed horned toad. This is the Modestum, Modestum. And then, of course, the Texas horned lizard. They've done all sorts of projects where they're reintroducing these back into the wild. They've disappeared a lot for several reasons. It's thought that the grasslands have changed. They've added foreign grasses, and then also the ant species have been taken over by fire ants. So it's really impacted the populations in terms of right now, people are, like I said, working with those to put back to the water. Snakes, like Mexican Mountain snake, lots of colubrids. Nice bossy snakes, the Kansas bossy snake. Long-nosed snake, really beautiful Texas long-nosed snake. We have long-nosed snakes in California too. This is a different species in Texas. Transpectus rat snakes, Bogertophis subocular. This is a snake that actually was the reason I started going to Texas in 1975. I wanted to catch one of these from Carl Kaufman's book, Snakes to Keep. He had a chapter called The Search for Subocularis. And I know a lot of you guys looking at me saying, yeah, I remember that. That was actually the reason a lot of us went to Texas is to catch a Transpectus rat snake. And then along the way, I just got more interested in the gray banded kingsnakes. These guys get their name because they have suboculars, scales like this at the bottom of the eye. So it used to be a lady, but now they're Bogertophis subocularis. Barrett's rat snakes, another rat snake in the area. These are kind of homely as babies, but they turn into kind of an interestingly patterned adult. This is an individual that I've had for about 30 years. She, started out spotted like that, but then eventually get these stripes on her body, and then they get all sorts of like purples, and reds, and yellows in their scales. Desert king snakes. Desert king snakes are a snake that's similar to our California king snake. It for a long time is the same species, but they've also elevated the desert king snake to its own species, and the California king snake is now a different species. New Mexico milk snakes, beautiful snakes. A lot of people see a lot of these. I've only ever seen 2 live ones in my whole life. This is one of them in the wild. And then, actually 3 with this one. This is one my son had found. It's kind of an aberrant pattern one. It's kind of a neat little snake. They've been well in captivity. I've had a pair for about 20 or so years. They seem to be pretty long-lived as long as you provide them a moist area to live in. And then the gray banded king snake, we'll spend a lot more time talking about these guys than we did. This is one from a town called Sanderson. Here we have a black-necked garter snake eating a spadefoot toad. There's 2 species of garter snakes. There's one black-necked garter snake, it's its name because it's got a black blotch on the neck. And then the checkered garter snake, which looks like this. These things are really common if conditions are right. I've seen up to like 10 in the night. If it's had a lot of rain, sometimes you'll see them swimming across the road in rainfall, in streams that are going across the road, eating smashed frogs that have been run over by cars. Hook-nosed snake is a little snake that's got a very small hook or an upturned nose that it uses for burrowing, for chasing after spiders. It's preferred for that. Every once in a while, you get something kind of odd. This is a rough green snake. Rough green snakes are usually found more in the eastern states in more wet conditions. These find or live in areas in Texas where it's very dry, but what they've managed to do is they live in areas that have either a good aquifer underneath, so there's some vegetation. This was one of like 4 that we found in a small area, probably the size of these chairs here at one night. And then go back the next night and they're not there. They're in these mesquites hunting for various invertebrates, insects like caterpillars and things like that. That was kind of interesting. Here we have a Mexican hognose snake. Hognose snakes get their name because they have this upturned nose here that they use basically for digging in soil to look for and eat toads. They're also known for playing dead, like this one here. They're so good that on their own, they can actually cause blood vessels in their mouth to hemorrhage, and they'll be bleeding out of the mouth rub poop all over their bodies, really a charming habit. And then once the danger appears to go away, they'll kind of turn their head around, check around, make sure the coast is clear, and then flip around and crawl off position. So that's one of their strategies for evading predation. Western coast whips, very beautiful. It's like our red racer in California, Southern California, or a San Juan Felix snake in the Central Valley. These guys can get to be almost 7 feet long and are quite slender and very, very fast, very, very speedy, as I can attest to when I try to catch one, because it's very rare that I get one when I see one on the road. It would skedaddles off the road by the time it gets there. Indigo snakes. Believe it or not, there are indigo snakes in the extreme eastern part of the Great Banded Kingsnake habitat. This is one that actually is attached to red. This is a wild-caught animal that was found in exactly the same county as the easternmost Great Banded Kingsnake. There have been a couple sightings of indigo snakes being found, like on Juneau Road, which I'll point out at that site, and also on Highway 277, again, easternmost range of Great Banded Kingsnake. This is the Devil's River black-headed snake. These things are amazing. Like, you know, California, you have black-headed snakes that are about this big. This one was sitting on a cut. It was huge. I thought it was a coral snake just by the shape, but it's the black-headed snake. Also, somewhat venomous. Their preferred food items are scolopendra centipedes, which I'll show you.
How much bigger are those things?
Pardon me?
How much bigger are they compared to?
They can be like 2 feet. The one I caught was about 27 inches. I think they're up to 30 inches. This species, Tantilla puculata. Night snakes. We have night snakes here. We were talking about night snakes earlier. They're very, very common in Texas too. This is one on the cut. Lyre snakes. Texas lyre snake. Again, they've done all sorts of stuff with the taxonomy. Used to be all Trimorphodon biscutatus. The ones in California, the ones in Arizona, and then the ones in Texas. Now they're all separate species. These became Trimorphodon wilkinsoni. The ones in Arizona are Trimorphodon lambda, and the ones in California are, it's debating me right now, but it's a different species. Unlike the ones in California and Arizona, these guys don't have that nice lyre-shaped marking on the head where the group got their name, because most of them have a lyre shape, which is a Greek harp instrument. Shape on the top of the head. Unfortunately, I didn't think to add a slide to show what that looked like, but imagine this whole thing having a nice blotch that was kind of a V shape, like a corn snake on the top. Another interesting snake is a Transpecus copperhead. Copperheads are very, very wet-loving animals as well. Usually you don't find them where it's very dry, but these guys, again, have taken advantage of certain areas in West Texas that are moist enough for them to survive, and they adapted a very, very nocturnal lifestyle where they come out at night and not eat in the day and are able to survive. They're very common, especially during rainy years. You've seen up to 8 in a single night with these guys. And it's also, we'll talk a little bit about it later on, but there's 2 basic varieties of Great Banded Kingsnakes. There's one that have really wide orange bands, the flareimorph, and I'll show you a picture of these in a bit. And then there's this morph, or the alternomorph that has really narrow bands. And we'll see both of those examples in a bit here. Rattlesnakes, there's all sorts of rattlesnakes. This is prairie rattlesnake on the road. The prairie rattlesnake is actually the rarest, or one of the rarer ones in the area. Black-tailed rattlesnakes get their name because they have this black coloration on their tail. Very, very common. They're also found in Arizona, different species nowadays. Again, they move these into ornatus, and the black-tails in Arizona are molossus. They're fairly similar. Then we have Western diamondbacks. This is a young animal in breeding or hunting mode. And then here we have 2 males combat dancing. So yeah, you can see, this is one of those things that you can see if you do a lot of walking like I had to. And then we have the Mojave green rattlesnake. Of course, everybody knows this is one of the more dangerous species. This one here is actually one from the extreme western part of Texas. Ones further east are a little bit more bland. And then very, very popular species that a lot of people work with out of state, because in California it's illegal to keep anything like this because it's not venomous, is the mottled rock rattlesnake. This is one from the extreme western part of the range, Guadalupe Mountains. And here we have one from south of there, next to the river. Again, these are all areas you're going to be very, very familiar with in just a second. And then we have one in the eastern part of the range, and on Juneau Road, they look like this. They're all the exact same. Very, 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 very low. Coral snakes are also sometimes found in gray banded kingsnake, West Texas habitat. This is the Texas coral snake, which gets to be about 24, 27, 30 inches long. It's one of the bigger ones, unlike the Arizona coral snake, which tends to stay rather small. All right, let's move along to amphibians for a bit. This is the eastern barking frog. I've only ever seen one animal, that was this one here, but I've heard them. I mean, they do sound like a barking frog, and it's pretty amazing the volume of sound that they can move out of this thing in a minute. This is the Gulf Coast toad, more in the eastern part of where we're visiting, West Texas. Here we have the Texas toad. Very, very common. I mean, we've gone to ponds where there's literally thousands of hatchlings of these, or newly metamorphosed animals hopping around. You've got to be really careful and set them. Here we have the Great Plains narrow-mouthed toad. And then the cliff chirping frog. There is a salamander that I've never been able to find a picture of, the tiger salamander. We have a couple of varieties of tiger salamander found in Texas. But they're pretty rare, and I never hit it right. I mean, it's got to rain a lot, and it's got to be raining, and you've got to be there. The ponds have formed, and I usually don't see it right at the find those. So invertebrates are really kind of a side thing to look for. I have a friend, Barney Tomberlin. We started collecting these things. He was a man that sold invertebrates for a business. He sold them to various insect zoos. He sold them to private individuals, sold them to institutions, sold them to companies. For example, companies would buy 1,000 black widow spiders at one time, and they do the T50 test. They try various pesticides and so on. It took to kill 50% of them. So he had, that was a pretty good market for him. We caught one of these, and he just kind of flipped out. He said these are usually a South American, Central American species. They're called giant red-eyed katydid. And so, we had seen one that I brought back from him. The next year we went out, we really hit it hard. We were able to catch about 20 of these things. And one of them I brought back to his place, wanted to get a picture of it. So I set it on a bush, and I did this threat display that was insane. I mean, it just was really loud, and apparently these things here, the mandibles, are quite powerful, because he had sent a group of these to a woman that was working at the St. Louis Invertebrate Zoo. And she went into the big screen enclosure. She went into the cage, and she said like 2 or 3 of them came down and like bit her on the neck and opened her up. They can be pretty aggressive. They are predators. They basically eat other katydids, grasshoppers, whatever they can catch. Pretty interesting. Then we have these guys. This is a Scolopendra heros. This is that centipede that black-headed snake specializes on feeding. These things, this is actually the slide I used to have was really blurry, because I was so terrified of these things. Even taking pictures of it was terrifying. And then, I kept telling my friend Barney, we're seeing a lot of these centipedes. He said, you should get them for me. You should get them. I said, why? Well, they're really valuable. I said, okay, I'll try to get one. So my family and I, we were there in 1996, West Texas, driving along, and we finally saw one of these, and we had a whole scenario figured out of how to find these things and how to catch them. So we saw one, my son spotted on a cut, and the whole car started vibrating for just group fear, because we were just terrified that we were going to actually do this. So each of us had a job. I had the job of actually picking it up with forceps. And then one of the kids, my 10-year-old son would open up the container, be on the ground, and then the other kid would, kind of spot me in case there was something else terrible going on. And I put it in there and brought it back, and Barney was so ecstatic that I thought that down. But my history of these things goes even further back than that. When I first started going to Texas, we would stay at this place called Pepper's Hill. And Pepper's Hill was, as you can imagine, was on top of a hill. And a guy named Pepper was the guy who ran it. He had an establishment, and he used to tell us, this place just runs itself, because he did absolutely nothing in upgrade. And I was sitting there in one of the rooms one day, and we heard, actually it was at night, we heard some screaming from a few, they had little huts that were houses that you could stay in. And what had ended up happening is the guy staying in there had one of these in bed with him, and he rolled on it, and the thing bit him on the stomach, and it was just, it was just horrible pain. And that was the first time that I thought, maybe this is not the best motel to stay at. The second time, I'm sitting, in a corner, in a chair, and I'm talking to my friend Rick Blair, and we're just, he's sitting here, I'm sitting in a chair, and I'm a couple inches away from the chair, and Rick says, "Oh wow, you got a centipede crawling right behind you." Yeah, right. It's right now for turning up like a 6-inch centipede crawling up like inches from my head, millimeters from my head. That was not the last time we went to that motel. The last time we went to the motel, Pepper's Hill, it's not around anymore. It's called Villa Amina now, but there's no place to sit. We saw that Pepper wasn't there, so we always wanted to check out his house. So we went in, everything was open. We went into his place where he kept his freezer, and we made the mistake of opening up the freezer. Okay, so it's daytime, really bright, so your eyes are adjusting to the dark. You get into this dark, pantry area that he kept his frozen goods in the freezer, and your eyes are adjusting to the dark, so we make the mistake of opening up the freezer. And we're looking at the freezer, and something's going on in there, but we don't know exactly what it is because our eyes are adjusting to the dark. And we're looking at this and then we realized what it was. He had left some meat in there, and there were like 1 million fly larvae just moving all over them. That was the straw. Well, no, that wasn't the straw that broke the camel. The straw that really broke the camel's back was they were showing us rooms. So we went from room to room to room. And we finally said, okay, we'll take this one. So we go into the room and we turn on a light. Seriously, we turn on a light. And then all of a sudden we notice all this sewage seeping out of the wall, coming down the wall. That was the final time. I said, you know what? Maybe we'll spend the extra money and go to a real motel. And that was the last time we stayed at Pepper's Hill. So it started with this thing here, the School of Heroes. This is what they look like in the western part of the range. Towards the eastern part of the range, you got these nice red heads. Notice that I just got the picture of the head, not the whole body, because these things terrify me. Over here, I got a nice big Scolopendra polymorpha, which is actually the variety we have here, but this guy here was about 6 inches long too. Notice how nicely he's posing. Really, what I discovered, the way to get these things to sit still is get some dry ice. The dry ice turns into what? CO2. And you have a little chamber, and you put one of these in the dry ice that's melted, and all of a sudden you see going in and out of the cloud, and all of a sudden they don't anymore. When they don't anymore, you reach in there with the forceps, and they're out for about 10 minutes. So you can take these really nice pictures. I still haven't done that with the heroes yet because I've never had an opportunity to catch another one.
That was the polymorphic hero?
This is the polymorpha, yeah.
I was going to ask, if you haven't seen one of the heroes, the size of them is ridiculous. They're so huge. You said the blackheads specialize in eating the heroes?
Black-headed, yeah, the cuculatas do, yes. They actually constrict them. And there was an article that had that in a magazine. It was kind of amazing, where they kind of wrap their clothes around it and eat it that way.
Yeah, that was my question. Because those are like small snakes.
Yes, they will. Yeah, I had another friend that said, I'd like to really keep one of those and bring it back. So, well, you catch it, you bring it back. So we put on gloves, and the thing was on us. I mean, it was hideous. Brought it home,
And he said, you know, it's the weirdest thing, Gerold. I feed it a mouse, and all that's left is just a little tuft of hair by the time it's done with the mouse. So yeah, these are things that, you know, I don't know. Final story on this, and then I promise I'll move on. my son, who lives in Arizona, he has friends that sell these things. So anytime he goes out, he's always trying to help him out and catch him. He said, Dad, the worst thing that ever has happened to me. I said, well, what happened? He said, I got bit. I said, oh shoot, you got bit by a rattlesnake. What happened? I got bit by a scolopendra. I said, you gotta be kidding me. He said, yeah, I had gloves. I was told that they couldn't bite through gloves. They can bite through gloves. It's still, I mean, it hurt. It's so bad. It felt like someone had taken a hammer and, you know, tapped it on as hard as they could on the finger and stuck you know, put it underneath the match. He said for like a day it was pretty bad. So not any fun, but kind of an interesting animal. Okay, one more comment. Sorry. Why has nobody ever made a movie with these things as the antagonist, the creature? You know, they've done ones with Gila monsters as a bad thing, or giant grass. I mean, this would be terrifying. I guarantee this would scare the snot out of you. All right, I'll move on.
I've got a question here.
Yes, sorry.
Are you sure that wasn't pepper that was in the freezer?
It was not. It was packaged as a hamburger. Yeah. The other thing to worry about, which is also a nice, interesting animal, are these centroides scorpions. They actually demonstrate over their parental care where they have their babies on the back. These are all little babies, little nymphs that will stay on the mom's back for a few weeks or so and then move on. And in Arizona, these are really a problem. And a problematic animal in Mexico. The ones in Texas are not so bad, but they are. You'll find them in your sink in the motel or in your wall or whatever. All right. Now we have the millipede. Millipedes are the friendly invertebrate. We would collect these for Barney too. We would always want, you know, as many as we could get. And I would bring as many as I could stand because they have a tendency to lose a cyanide type substance that they use to dissuade predation. And this is also the strategy that they use where they coil up. And usually they're really herbivores, but occasionally you'll find them in the wild, like this one here, feeding on a dead Central Texas whip snake, which is oddly enough the only picture of a Central Texas whip snake that I have is dead with a millipede eating on it. In turn, this guy gets eaten by a tarantula. The tarantula is chowing down on a millipede. I was shocked that anything would even think of eating this thing because they smell disgusting. And then the tarantula, in turn, gets stung by a pepsid wasp, a tarantula hawk, that you'll see these things they're supposedly, as adults, they just are nectar feeders, totally benign. They have one of the worst stings. If you ever watch the guy that figures out the worst sting, this idiot or this guy on TV, will get stung by bees, and he got stung by one, and it was just about put him under. It was so painful, but the animals themselves, you know, like I said, they're nectar feeders, but they spend their time looking for tarantulas to actually sting, and then what they'll do is they'll bring the tarantula back, and they have a hole all ready for it. They'll stick it in the hole, and then they lay, I believe, one egg on the body of this thing. This thing is, you know, paralyzed, but it's still alive. And then the egg hatches into a young wasp, and the wasp, as larva is growing up, feeds on the tarantula, grows up and turns into another tarantula. Pretty gruesome story, but pretty interesting. All right, now the main subject. Here we are, Great Banded Kingsnakes. This is the #1 reason that I go to Texas, okay? I tell people it's for the landscape, or it's for beauty, or it's for the cool neighborhood. This is it. I am so obsessed with these snakes, okay? When people go in my car, we're driving around and they'll look at my clock. We're late. They'll look at my clock. It says it's like 17 minutes fast. I said, no, that's alternate time, okay? Once I was in on finding 60 animals, I got rid of that, but I went past 60. This is, 17 minutes. My clocks are set 17 minutes fast because 60 and then 77 animals are, I found 77 of these over the last 50 or so years. So, that's how obsessed I am with these. I'll move on. Anyway, here we have, like I said, the alternamorph, and here we have the blarimorph. And if you remember, I talked about the copperhead. Copperheads were thought to mimic this morph here. The banded rock rattle, or the mottled rock rattlesnake was thought to mimic, or these things are thought to mimic the mottled rock rattlesnake. There's some discussion on that. Some people don't believe that. Some people think there's good evidence to support it. I'm just throwing that out there. Gray-banded kingsnakes also have huge eyes that they use for looking at night, seeing at night. They have a nocturnal lifestyle. They're usually out after sunset. Very, very rarely are they found when there's any light in the sky. So, all right, here we are with the Manteca. That first spot we're going to visit, I'm just going to show you where we're going to go. This is the Waco Mountains. Then we're going to go to Culberson County, which is all these right here. This is the Guads right here, Beach Mountains right here, and then the Apache Mountains right here. We don't need to remember that. There's no test. And then we'll go to a little place called Boy Scout Road, and then we'll go to other regions here in the Davis Mountains. Off one goes out, and we'll go south to Alpine, West Alpine right here, and then we'll shoot south down to the river. Remember that second mottled rock rattlesnake that I said, oh, this is from the river road. This is the river road right here, and it gets its name because it follows the Rio Grande River right here. So it gets the river road. It's also called the Big Hill. I'll show you about that in just a minute. Then we'll scooch over to the Christmas Mountains here. Then we'll move over to Black Ant right here. And then we'll move on up to Sanderson right here. We'll go to 9 Mile Road by Sanderson. We'll go to East Sanderson. Then we'll go around the 90 corridor. This is Langtree, basically right here. And then we'll go to Juneau Road, which is right here. And then we'll end on Highway 277. So when I was saying the eastern part of the range, like that the red-headed centipede, those are found more here, or the indigo snakes. Several been seen here in this area and right here. So really on the westernmost spot where you can find an indigo snake, but they do occur together in the same county. Okay, and then we'll start off, like I said, on the western side. So about the bleakest mountain range that I'm going to show you are the Waco Mountains. This is pretty bleak, and this is actually after a rainstorm. It's even worse. Usually it's monochromatic. It's just dead and deader to look at. Pretty heinous. But I think the gray-banded kingsnakes found there are magnificent. Some of them are very, very narrow-banded, like this one here. Notice that the red is basically in the black on this. I'll point that out. I'll tell you why that's important in just a sec. They get varying amounts of red in them, but usually they're very, very much an alternamorph. This is actually the dad of the last two that I showed you. It's the only wild-caught one that I had a picture of. And now we're in the Guads. This is the Guadalupe Mountains. Okay, so we're a little further east. This is the mountain that's 8,700 feet, so almost 9,000 feet, also pretty high elevation. And again, some pretty magnificent animals like this one here. Very, very low band count. I mean, there's a lot of gray on this. Why did it do that? Because notice that the red is kind of bleeding into the orange here. That's kind of a way to distinguish between the Wacos. This one looks like it could be a Waco, but it's not. It's a Guad or a Culberson County. And then this one here has orange kind of bleeding into the gray pattern too. So these are all kind of from a little bit east of the Wacos. So slightly different, but very, very similar to the first group of Wacos. Sometimes you get some that have quite a bit of red. This cavity right there, individual. Now we're down the Boy Scout Road, moving south from the Davis Mountains, on the east side of the Davis Mountains. These are high elevation mountains too. They get up to 8,300 feet. This is actually, the camp is right over here, but there's a nice Boy Scout camp. They kindly built a really nice paved road up to it, and that paved road is a really, really famous spot called BSR for Boy Scout Road. But the animals there are quite dingy and dark. Lots of rhyolite in the area, and of course the limestone usually, areas like east or the Wacos make for lighter animals. The rhyolite makes for darker animals.
hence the name Jewels of the Rhode Island, because, you know, people are being sarcastic, but I still think it's kind of a nice looking animal. Except for maybe this one, not really. But this, even though it's kind of muddy looking, it kind of looks like a liner snake, kind of interestingly patterned. Now we're gonna move kind of east of Fort Davis. This is Olympia Canyon, this columnar rock formation. This is one that my wife spotted. She usually comes with me, well, when we were working, she would come every 5 years to Texas with me, and now that she's retired too, she's going every other year. This is one she spotted. This is one I spotted the next night. These are all from Olympia Canyon. And what's cool about Olympia Canyon is a lot of times you'll have the whole animal look patternless almost, where there's just this really wild patternless pattern. Even though they're kind of, you know, dark, they're still intriguing looking to me. Now we're gonna go to the Observatory Road. Observatory Road is named because right at the top here, right up here, there's a nice observatory. And the picture that I showed you when we're looking down from the Davis Mountains, that was taken at the top from the observatory. So I probably should include a picture of the observatory, but this is the observatory with these nice cuts. And not such nice animals usually, pretty dingy, but some kind of neat. This one has no red on it. This one's a little lighter. And of course, my friend catches one that looks like this. That's pretty magnificent for that area. But very, very variable. And you know, for years, we go there for years. And then the last few years, every time we went there, we'd see one. Muskie's Canyon driving down south. Now we're going to Alpine. Alpine's a nice little community, about 8,000 people, West Texas. It's kind of east of Marfa. Marfa's famous for its Marfa lights and its really weird art. But they've got all sorts of little things displayed a little west of here. But this is called Paisano Canyon. It is it's by West Alpine. And the animals look like this. This area here has the most variable looking gray banded kingsnakes, I think, anywhere. This is a female that I found in 2005. This is when she was kind of young. We grew her up, and then my friend caught a male from the same cut, and these are 3 of the babies that we produced. This is one of the babies. Kind of an odd pattern kind of thing. This is another baby. More of an alternate, kind of some red in it. And then this is the third baby, which is kind of really weird. I mean, there's, you know, high variability. I've seen animals that look just like you would find in the East. I've seen a lot of animals that look like typical straight alternamorphs with no red on it or no orange on it at all. And I've seen everything in between. All right, so I just want to kind of remind you what we did. This is the Waco Mountains, a really dry, desolate area. Highest area in Texas, 88 feet tall. These, remember they had the alternative that led into the gray. And then we were just in the Davis Mountains starting there. And then we went here. And then we went to Alpine right here. And now we're going to shoot down to the River Road right here. River Road is bar none one of the nicest, most fun places to go road cruising. Even though, we'll get into this later on, you're not allowed to go road cruising in Texas to catch snakes. But, you know, they can't stop me from looking. So that's kind of what I tell them. So, the River Road, true desert. Again, because we're taking pictures for the book, we try to get pictures that really, really look beautiful. Typically, it's a lot more monochromatic than this, but really tons of rock piles where you find model rock rattlesnakes and all sorts of lizards in a nice little flat area where you find velocity snakes and things like that. Rugged habitat. This is right on the U.S.-Mexico border. So there is potential for law enforcement, border patrol to kind of stop and ask what you're doing if they see you on these roads. I had one friend, real quick, the same guy that Rick Blair that was talking to me, said, hey, look at that centipede behind your back, you know, that guy. He actually got shot at down here on this river road, and it deployed his airbags. So he had a mess on his hands. But
That was the worst story that I ever heard. Worst thing that ever happened to me is I was trying to take a picture of a retail cat, and all I ended up with were 2 eye shines for my trouble, but I got pulled over by Texas Parks and Wildlife. They asked me what I was doing. I said, well, we're just trying to take a picture of a ring-tailed cat. And then he goes into his car and sits down, and he sits there and sits there. And I finally go up and say, what's going on? He says, well, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to write you a ticket for. So what it was obstructing the highway. Whatever. Also, this is, remember I said there on the river road, there's the 2 areas, the big hill, and then of course the river. The river you can see right here. We're up on top of this big hill. This big hill is just, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you ever go there. It's just this huge hill that you drive up and then you drive down. You can look both ways and see a view of the Rio Grande River. This is looking west, first picture's looking east. This is what the altern looked like from there. This is the first altern actually that I ever found, 1978 with my wife on our honeymoon. I stayed married to her for that reason. No, I'm kidding. It's not true. She killed me if she heard me say that. But that was actually one of those things where, again, we're there for transpapeless rat snakes, and I see this snake. I said, was that a snake? Or it looked like a fanbone, but it looked like a snake. And she said, I didn't see it, which is what she typically says when I say, is that a snake? So I back up and get out, and I'm shining a light. I said, wow, it's one of those lepidus, I think, you know. And so then I said, there's no rattle on it. So I reached down and picked it up. And think that the snot on me. I think, boy, I hope it's not venomous. And then it finally dawned on me. I said, this is one of those great kingsnakes people have been talking about. That's the first one that I ever heard of on TV. River road ones, typical, you know, sometimes they have a lot of red on it. This is one that's pretty, you know, high contrast. This is one that even is more commonly seen with hardly any red on it, like they're real typical alternative. Again, alternative morphs, high band count, really narrow, not a lot of red inside, not a lot of orange inside. But other times they've got quite a bit of orange, like this one, which is from a little region called the Heat, is also on the river road. Now we're going to move a little further east. This is the Christmas Mountains. Christmas Mountains, teeny little area, teeny little range, really high degree of variability in the gray banded kingsnake. This area and the one west of Alpine, to me, have the highest degree of variation. This female, my oldest son and I were, and my middle boy were walking. They were teenagers, and he spotted this snake. He said, "Dad, so I go running over there. We catch it. It ended up being a rabbit female, pregnant. And I brought her home, and we got some eggs, got 4 eggs. All 4 were totally fertile. One looked like this. This is the only male. And then numbers 2 and 3 look like this. I mean, it looked just like this. It was an amazing animal. And then the 4th one looked very similar to this, kind of an alternative dark phase. And then this is the grandkid, the granddaughter of the first snake. And then I bred this one to a really dark snake and ended up with this one here because I wanted to outbreed. And then just to remind you what they can look like, this is one that my friend caught on his property, bought some property specifically to go snake hunting and finally paid off with it. Nice snake. Now we're going to scooch across, go to blackcat, which is actually it's a preserve, but they allow snake hunting on it. This again is the Rio Grande, not very impressive, but beautiful habitat here. I mean, this is Mexico that we're looking at here. And the habitat is actually behind us, but some really incredible animals. Beautiful animals. I mean, animals that you would just go, wow. This is not one of them. This is a blackcat animal, not on the pretty end of the spectrum, but you know, still kind of interesting. This is another one. This is a male. And then you can sometimes have ones that are just, wow, like this one here. Blair space, but you know, it does have some alternates in it. So, you know, I might call it a tweener. I mean, look at this thing. But really pretty amazing. And then go back to this kind of, a lot of people are selling aneurystic gray banded kingsnakes. That stock kind of was derived from a blackcat stock originally. All right. Now we're gonna go back kind of north and east. This is 9 Mile Cut, north of Sanderson. Okay, this is a cut, and at the eastern part of the range, you're really looking in places like this. There's all sorts of like these grooves, I call them alternate highways, because the alternates have a tendency to move right through them. Right from here to here is, believe it or not, about 50 feet. This is called 9 Mile Cut because it's 9 miles north of Sanderson. Some really, really amazing animals. This is one that my friend found like at 2 or 3 in the morning, going up the sandy part of the cut. This is one of her kids, one of the daughters. This is one that I found on 9 Mile. 9 Mile is a very, very popular spot. And that night, when I found this one, there were like 400 or 500 groups. And one group had just walked by this snake and didn't see it. It maybe had just come out of the crack in the like 2 minutes that it took for me, you know, from the time that they walked past to the time I walked up to it. So, you know, just people get upset when you go on their cut and they say, oh, you're just so proud of me. But it changes. It changes so fast. It's probably not something you need to worry about. I still worry about it. There's another one from 9 Mile. And then it has some really amazing alternivores too. You know, I mean, really narrow band, but they're almost all orange. This is a wild caught animal. A man named Roy Engelberg caught this. He had a business in Sanderson. He had a motel, and he made it pretty herpet friendly. It was, you know, nice friendly rates, and then he retired, and the guy that bought it was not so good. He went from $40 a night to $120 a night, and the same service. And this is one that my wife and I found on our anniversary many years later, like I think 30 years after we were married. Not a real pretty one, but you know, you find these everywhere. You find ones that are kind of mud with kind of muddy orange. All right, now we're going to East Sanderson, a little further east. Again, if you're looking at places like this, you're walking these areas at night. And again, you have these alternate highways, like this right here, like this right here. But you'll see in a bit, they'll be crawling up from one to the other. A lot of times they're in the grooves, a lot of times they're just like in the middle of nowhere. Just gotta look everywhere, you know. This is one from that area, this is East Sanderson. Typical Blair's phase, again, wide blotches, nice orange, kind of an intermediate gray. This is what we would call a medium phase. Not because it's medium good looking, but because it's not light and it's not dark. It's medium. This is what we call a light phase, because it's nice and light, nice powder gray, nice red, kind of almost an alternate, but not really, because it doesn't have any of the alternates, like this one right here. But you know, usually a true alternate would have alternates all the way down. Oh, this. Sure, because I got plenty of time. It's not 10 after 9, 10 after 8. This is one of those trips, 2007. I have my middle son Jeffrey with me. He is, 6'2", and he's into weightlifting. Thank God for this story, because we had spent 2 weeks looking for these things, and it was a great year. It was wet. It was like beautifully green, but we could not find one of these things to save our lives. Everybody was catching them around us, over females, huge, beautiful light-faced males. And then us, we were, lucky to see a gopher snake, not to put the bull snake down, but, gopher snake, and nothing really, that interesting. Well, at that time, you could shine from the car. So that was great. So I would always drive, because my eyes were not that good, and then I had one of my kids shine the cut, So if the officer stopped, they would get in trouble. At that time, it was totally legal. So my son said, "Dad, alterna." And I said, okay. So I kind of took my glasses down. I gave him one of these things here. Okay, really? Now the reason I did that is because 4 times before, when he screamed alterna, the first time it was a rubber snake. Okay? The second time, it was another rubber snake. The third time, it was a stick. The 4th time, it was on the road. He said, "Dad, for sure it's an alterna. I swear it's an alterna." I get out there. I said, "Well, go get it." So he goes, at that time, we could collect on the road. Runs out, picks it up, Brings it in, Dad, it's the nicest looking alternate I've ever seen. I said, Jeff, it's a liar snake. So that's kind of why I said, are you sure it's an alternate? Yes, Dad, for sure it's an alternate. And sure enough, it was an alternate. So we get out of the car, and the thing scooches under a rock. And Jeffrey was not having any of that. It was a rock maybe this big. You just kind of picked that rock up and moved it over to the side. I grabbed the snake, and he and I are looking at the snake. We're just kind of looking at it. Wait, this is the weirdest, look at it. And we realized what it was two breeding alternates. That's the only time we ever actually found two alternates that have been breeding. True story. I thought I'd share. So this is one of the babies that she produced, which to me is really a nice snake. I like the jet black with bright orange. Kind of a nice alternative. This is not one of the babies. This is what we call a black and black one in the same area. So again, pretty high degree of variability. Oh, this is driving a little further west. Beautiful alternate highways on this thing. This is a place called Palma Draw is kind of a naturally made cut that was made by the river thousands of years ago. And got all these nice little grooves in the limestone. Those are probably loaded at times with various animals, various alternative, millipedes, anything you want. This is what they typically look like there. And this is kind of what we call a dark phase because it's dark. And then another one, kind of a medium phase, but you know, the brown color is kind of muddy. And then this one, those two animals produce this in here, which is kind of, I think, pretty nice because it's nice dark with bright orange. So again, just like two beautiful creatures can breed together and produce average-looking kids, babies. Not to get mean, but that's just migration towards the mean, you know. And other times, two just not all that good-looking things can breed together and produce what I would consider to be just a non. All right. Now we're moving a little further east. This is a place called Locher Canyon. My wife pointed out that he should have taken that trash out, but anyway, that's what it looked like. And now we're in Langtree. Langtree is really the spot where everybody goes to catch the first gray banded kingsnake because it's loaded with gray banded kingsnakes at certain times. Other times you can be there like weeks and not see a single one, but look at all these alternate highways. I mean, it's just miles. This is like a mile-long cut. They can be anywhere on these grooves. They can be going anywhere. The animals here look kind of typical Blair's, medium phase with pretty good orange. Light phase. You'll see her on her alternate highway picture later on. So sometimes they're pretty dark. This is an extremely exquisitely beautiful one for me because it was the only one I saw that trip. So yeah, it was gorgeous. I named him Charcoal, and it's kind of the charcoal color. That's the only one or two that I named. This is another one from that they're all from the same cut. Mine's got that long length cut. This one I named Cuter. So this one, you know, just to kind of make it sound nice, but it's not really the most attractive one, but still kind of an interesting one. You'll see his picture in a while, just a sec. Now we're on Juneau Road. So Juneau Road is, we're almost done. The easternmost, one of the easternmost locales. Got really a bunch of rocky canyons, little draws. Beautiful river, Devil's River. I mean, this place is really nice. There's the Baker, it's called Baker's Crossing. Family named Baker owns it, and they allow you to picnic here for a fee or camp there. I've never camped there, but I've had friends that have done it. And it's really, really a beautiful area. That's looking towards the west, this is looking towards the east. All sorts of potential for like water snakes. We've got several water snakes here, just on the road. And then all sorts of turtles too. But not far away, it's pretty dry. These are pretty dry hills in the back. The water seems to attract populations of gray banded kingsnakes. This is a really, really famous locale for gray banded kingsnakes, Juneau Road. And they look like this, typical Blair's phase. Another Blair's phase, light phase, it's light, no alternates. Low band count. Then you also have alternate morphs there too, like this one here. Kind of exactly the same spot, same cut, within feet of the last two. And then, of course, you go back to these muddy ones, you get those too. I mean, it's just like two really beautiful animals, and produce, you know, ones that are maybe not so beautiful, but still kind of.
All right, now we're to the last locale. This is Highway 277. 277, this is insane how nice it looks here, because usually it's just like dry, and I need to take a picture to show you how bad it can look, because it looks bad most of the time. This is one of the years that it was really, really lush. I went there, like I said, when I was doing pictures for the book, in 2021, it was green like this. This is like Buffalo Creek, north part of Highway 277, where you find great man kingsnakes. Chamber of Commerce, this is what the animals look like there. Beautiful Blair States. This is her mother, the one that I showed you. Again, no alternates. This is like totally 100% of Blair States. This is an alternamorph. This first one that I caught there in 1992. Get really dark too sometimes. And then you get alternamorphs that are insane like this one here. My friend, this was the first one that he ever caught after looking for alternate for about 4 or 5 years and leaving there, so we went out there and had to do it. Took him 4 or 5 years to catch this one, but it was really a nice beautiful snake. All right, so let's talk a little bit about hunting great snake. This is what you want. You want this stormy type, wind blowing, wet, miserable, dust everywhere, just stirring up all sorts of moisture and all sorts of energy, and that's the best kind. And you start seeing these things bouncing all over the place. This is a silky pocket mouse. They are potential prey items for great man kingsnakes. Looking for lizards, you know, it's humid. You know, you need a little bit of humidity, not a lot of humidity, but you know, most of the time it's dry there. Those are the nights that are just amazing to find. And I've had very, very few of them. So this is my friend. We bought some property together, and this is him looking for a gray banded kingsnake. He and I have spent probably between the two of us 50 nights and not found any in our property. But we found everything else. We found copperheads, we found transpacific rat snakes, we found blind snakes, we found ringneck snakes, we found copperheads, we found banded rock rattlesnakes, banded geckos, we found protected geckos, black-tailed or lepidus, the little rock rattlesnakes, everything except the gray banded kingsnake. They're there, we just haven't found them. People worry about the moon phase too. They concerned, you know, I was told, it's actually pretty wise, that there's not just one factor that makes snakes move, or gray banded kingsnakes move. You know, there's a bunch of factors. There's moon, there's amount of moisture, what's happened in the last couple of weeks, there's temperature, there's wind, there's all sorts of things. There are like 6 or 7 factors. This one right here, oops, sorry. This one right here is probably at the very bottom. You know, my best years have been on full moons for some reason. I've had years where I've caught maybe 4 or 5 in a week period, and the moon was huge. Go figure. Anyway, what do you need to go hunting for gray banded kingsnakes? Like I said, the laws have changed. Obviously, you need a nice pair of hiking boots. This pair is not nice anymore. I have about 1,000 miles on it. That's all I had to take a picture of. You need a reflective vest. That's part of the law. And then you also need the hunting license. The hunting license can cost you $150 for the year, or $55 on the nights. And usually I end up buying the yearly hunting license because it's out of state. If you live in Texas, I think it's $55 for the hunting. You need those things because there's good chances, more often than not, you're going to get pulled over by law enforcement. And if it's a border patrol, they'll usually call the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they're the ones that are the game wardens, and they'll ask to see your permits and make sure that you're legit. And it can be kind of a problem if you don't have the permit. They've been really, really pretty nice. You know, they'll tell you, well, we really need you to go buy one, so you have to go buy one the next day, and if they see you again, they'll ask to see it and make sure that you buy it the next day. So yeah, it's something that definitely we need to have. You also need to have a good set of lights. I prefer to use headlights nowadays. It keeps the hands free, so if you're falling or whatever, you can
have two arms instead of just one. I use a flashlight to get off the hill if your headlight burns out. This here, headlight like this for me, Beams H3, they're about $120, they're great. They put out not too much light, but they put out a lot of light, enough light. There's some people just basically have a car headlight on their head. And that's almost too much light, because it just blows out everything and can't see anything. And like I said, it's important to have either a flashlight or spotlight to get down the hill, because cloud up nowhere with the light. It's kind of scary. Oh, yeah. Don't expect fine cuisine in Texas. Anybody from Texas? Oh, sorry. I refer to this as the Big Bend diet, okay? What you want is high calories and easy. If you're expecting to eat fine food in West Texas, you're probably gonna be at a loss as to where you can find that. So we just end up eating what we call gas station food, and just hope that our bodies purify themselves when we get home from a diet of M&Ms, birthday cupcakes, Skittles, and Diet Dr. Pepper. So that's the other thing. Keep into consideration if you want to plan your lunch in West Texas. So let's look at some snakes in the wild. This is Olympia Canyon, a nice blue sky picture with a columnar rock. This is one of the animals from there. This is one from the observatory, just kind of climbing straight up the cut. Here's one in a town. I didn't show you. This is in the book. This is a town called Iran. It's kind of north of Sanderson, northeast of Sanderson. It's a huge amount of the oil industry is there. It smells pretty much like petroleum, but it's got some really nice habitat and some beautiful great magnificent. This is one that's just coming out of the crack right here, and it's just moving around looking for some food items. This is one on the big hill. Remember the big hill on the river road, the very top. This is kind of on the dirt part of that cut, just sitting there, like we're just walking by and shine a light and say, hey, there's one. Kind of fun. This is one in the grass at the bottom of the cut, the one that my wife found. Olympia Canyon again. This is one in the Culberson County. I took the picture and then I grabbed the snake, which was really stupid because I didn't look at what the snake was looking at. The snake was actually looking at a spiny lizard, poinsettia, a possible food item, possible eating it, possible nice interaction with these things eating something, which would have been cool, but I grabbed it instead of it. Anyway. Here's one in the Soto cactus. This is on Juno Road. Here's that, this is Pewter. Remember the one that I called Pewter in West Langtree? This is what he looked like. This guy just was very cooperative. I had a friend that was like quarter mile away, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, and he finally got in his car and came over, and this thing sat there for like 5 minutes, just like this. So we come and take a look at it and take a picture too. This is that light phase Langtree one that I said, I'll show you on the alternate highway. She was up about 8 feet, and I climbed up and get a picture and grab her. And then a lot of times people out of ground, you're gonna find them like this, where they get schmucked. 17 of the ones that I've seen have been DORs. So, as far as safety, most of the time, most people will be walking areas like this. There's a nice wide area along the roadway. You're walking with your headlight, looking at these cuts here. This is East Sanderson, we're looking at these cuts here. So we have two guys or two people who can park over here. One person can go this way around and they just cross over the road. The other person going down this way and they just kind of cross the pathway down here. Works out really well. Sometimes, if you own private property or people that own property in Texas, they'll say, you don't want our property, but it's always a good idea to kind of familiarize yourself with what it looks like in the daytime, because at night it's going to look a whole lot different. And the last thing you want to do is
So if you catch something on your property, you still need to have that license?
believe it or not, the state of Texas believes that all wildlife, even on your property, they don't. So yeah, you still need to have a hunting license to hunt your own property. Yeah, but I don't know if the vest is all that much enforced. And if you have a gate across your property, they can't really I've never met a game warden on.
Come check your property again.
No, never. This is something you see also, apparently, this is some herper that had seen one in the crack here and pulled the rock off the face of the cut and hopefully got the animal, or maybe hopefully didn't get the animal. A lot of times you'll see a lot of damage done. I shouldn't say a lot of times, I mean, I've seen it about 20 times where rocks have popped out like crowbars or whatever. That's something you wanna see. And a lot of times, when you're out in the field, you know, you feel like eyes are looking at you like, well, something's up there looking at me. Like, these were some big one sheep that were looking at us, in the daytime. But I've had friends that have encountered mountain lions and bobcats. They're all sorts of different things that, you know, could be kind of scary. Never had a problem because you do pretty terrifying. But it's just something that you can do. That's the end. So I've got time for any questions. Any questions at all? Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Edgar, go ahead.
Sorry. Maybe not everyone here is a field herper, they don't all go out looking for snakes like many of us have. Maybe differentiate between some of the laws in Texas and as well as California. When they wanted to go out to California to look for snakes, what would they
You need a fishing license to do that in California. And I, you know, in Texas, they don't like the spotlight from the car anymore. In California, I don't think that's a big deal. But you know, it's not an effective way to really hunt. Seriously, since I started walking, I walk literally probably 8 or 9 miles a night. You see a lot more walking. I mean, you see, you know, I mean, that's when I started carrying the camera. I found a black-headed snake in a web. It was a southwestern, so it's a small one. By being predated on by black widows. Probably would have been a great photo. They didn't have a camera. So ever since then, I always carry my camera with me, even if it's just my cell phone. So yeah. So California, you need a fishing license. They run about $56 a year, and with that, you caught salamanders and you know, most of the snakes, reptiles, lizards, whatever. And except for Pacific pond turtles, you only allow 1 zonada, and there's a couple of other things, some obscure, hard to find lizards that they protect. Arizona, you need a license that is just for fishing also. You need a fishing and hunting license to hunt in Arizona. It's about $150 cheaper than out of state. And there, you're allowed to road cruise. You can you spotlight if you want to. It's not necessary. And you can't pick up things like Gila monsters, or you can't pick up banded rock rattlesnakes, twin spot rattlesnakes, original rattlesnakes. So there's certain things that they protect. They vehemently protect them. So, and then Texas, like I said, you get a out-of-state hunting license. They're $150. And with that, there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, they were protecting things like Texas lyre snake, Texas indigo snake, the reticulated collar lizard. All those things were very, very much protected until about 3 years ago. Now you're allowed to have up to 6 of those. You just can't commercially produce babies and sell babies. You just have to do those babies. But like gray banded king snakes, like for the last since 1987, you've been allowed to just buy a hunting license and hunt those, no problem. Matt, you got a question?
Yeah, so I know that most of West Texas is a Gerold Merker.
Yeah.
And then, you know, pretty much the summer that you do like a weapon monsters or
Right.
Right? So,
The rainy season in West Texas, like Langtree, the eastern part, they get some rain starting in April and May. The western part, that's a good question. The western part, like the River Road, those areas, you're lucky if you get some rain in June and May, but usually the rain happens later on in the summer. Just kind of like southeast Texas, it falls more of that rainy pattern.
so why
Sorry, no, go ahead, go ahead.
So why like if the weather's like on somewhere, like, you such like the species diversity kind of like so different, Arizona, just like West Texas?
Why, well, it's, I mean, it's, you know, California has different looking animals too, it's just one of those things. They say like some of the riverways, the Colorado River supposedly prevents animals from crossing from Arizona into, you know, although there's Gila monsters, that somebody said that Gila monsters couldn't, but there's Gila monsters in California too, Providence County. You know, it's just a different area, different temperatures, different elevations, different amounts of moisture. You know.
Different substrate with the.
Yeah, substrate, yeah, there's all sorts of, you know, things are different. Mrs. Leopard?
Yeah, so my question, do they have, I'm assuming, because I know with like fishing in California, they have books that tells you what you can.
Yes, there's a regulation book that they'll give you
Yeah.
every time you purchase your
Okay.
hunting license, yeah.
So
that's a
like
good
in
point.
Texas and Arizona, you have those books as well?
You have those
Okay.
pamphlets available, yeah. Yes,
Do you collect all of the snakes that you find, or are you just out there looking to capture?
oh, no,
photographs and take your
my wife would kill me if I caught everything I saw. No, great banded kingsnake, she forgives me on that one. And then the indigo snake, she's pretty much fed up with. I've got 2 of those that I've caught because I could legally do so. She said, okay, no more of these, you know, because they're huge.
Yeah.
But the frogs and stuff, we make little sets or we just do photography right out in the field. I have the kids hold my strobes and in a softbox, we just do it right out there. One and done, or, you know, 7 to 10 and we're done, just turn them loose. No, that would not work. Yeah. Yes?
So you mentioned some of the ones you can collect that you can use too, but then you collect what you can't do commercial breeding.
Right. Why?
Is that
what you're asking?
Well, yeah, is that enforceable outside of Texas?
See, that's the thing. It's a reciprocity, you know? Arizona, it doesn't want you to catch stuff there and then bring it in out of state and then breed it and sell the baby. They don't want you to do that. They don't want you to do that. But, you know, there's some of this stuff, I mean, some of this stuff has been in captivity for multi-generations. There's no way to tell, you know, not that I'm saying you should go catch one and say it's been, but, you know, I mean, there's no way to enforce that.
Right, that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
was like, is any other state has to enforce?
No, not that I know of.
So, most likely fishing is a company.
Most likely they won't.
To your house and say, hey, you can't sell.
Yeah,
this.
they can't do that, I don't think, no. That'd be a worry if they could. Cause if we sell Arizona mountain kingsnakes in California, they're gonna be a problem, you know? Cause I do that. I just, you know, who's heard of morph market?
You get home
Uses
to Texas
morph market, you know, I use morph market to sell a lot of my stuff, but I always say, you know, no Arizona sales, no, you know, or no, you know, Texas you can buy.
Make sure your plane doesn't land.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think some people might think you're an avid herper, but they may not realize how much time you spend in the field. I can't get you a meeting outside of November.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Edgar's always asked me, well, and that's, well, I'm gonna be gone, Edgar, don't hit me up in the peak herping season for crying out loud.
I think I did.
You know, you gotta do it.
In February, right?
Yeah.
So tell people how to go and talk to you.
Well, you know, it's just, I'm just a herping fool, because I'll start in February in California, I'll go, you know, down to the Sierra Fluid Hills and look for stuff. And I don't keep, I look at it, I don't keep it for crying out loud, you know. And then, usually my year goes, you know, California in February, March, then I go to Arizona in late March, most of April, some May, and then I start thinking about Texas. And then I go to Texas, you know, late May, June, July, August, September.
So are you ever?
Yeah, that's November. And then, Arizona, I go, you know, Arizona, man, I love Arizona in the monsoon, so we go back in July and August, it's fantastic. September, it's fantastic. I was telling Edgar, I've been to Texas 5 times this year, which is ridiculous. I didn't catch a gray man any of those times. And one of the times I was with my son at a defensive training class that he was taking for the police department. You had a question, sorry?
Keep them in captivity, are they a pretty moderate or easy species to keep?
Which one? The gray band? As adults are really easy. And this size is not so easy. You gotta get them started on lizards or lizard scented pinkies or frozen boiled pinkies. You know, I could come back and talk about breeding these things. I would, you know, take up a tip for you for another hour.
So if you have a baby, then, I mean.
Oh yeah, I got several big,
If you were to buy a baby, you had a baby at home,
yeah.
raising that baby, what would you be eating?
Well, ideally pink mice, you know, but you know, sometimes you gotta start on the list, sometimes they just wanna eat lizards. And what I typically will do is I'll get them a few lizards in the fall, and then